Hey guys, welcome to another live show. I'm like really far down. Another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And most importantly, getting into that chat and letting me know what you guys are thinking about yesterday's game. I think th- I'm not surprised that the last 12 hours or so has been all about Arsenal. Just Arsenal, Arsenal, Arsenal. Oh my gosh, they didn't play well. They scammed it. Blah blah blah. Jokeris this, blah blah blah. And I feel yeah, if you guys were not there for the post-match show yesterday, where were you? But I feel exactly the same as I felt yesterday, if not even more so, that one of my bigger gripes in preseason was feeling like I was watching the same football. And I can just about accept, Arsenal trying a new way of play and it not coming off rather than seeing us do the same thing over and over again and thinking that we're going to get different results. And so on rewatch, I rewatched the game this morning. I felt like exactly what I saw yesterday is that I was spot on. We were trying to do something different. Did it come off? No. Um, overhit passes, bad touches, bad runs. It was pretty amateurish out there when it came to the quality and execution of what we were trying to do going forward. But what it was not was the same horseshoe bullshit and that we have been doing for the last 2 seasons. And so this type of football is actually exactly how we would need to play this season to open other teams up, to not have to sit up against deep blocks every game, and to get the most out of Jokeris. And so it was not pretty in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not trying to frame our performance yesterday as anything other than, grinding out a win. But I think there's more layers to it than just Arsenal were terrible. And oh, YouTube is broken? Really? I didn't know YouTube was broken. It's crazy. Well, things seem to be working a little bit over here. I do see a lot less people in the chat than there usually would be, and maybe that's a reason why, but we'll keep going. But yeah, I'm not going to try to paint yesterday's win as anything other than, kind of a gritty performance. But, you know, you can think of it one of two ways. Alarm bells could be ringing in your head like, oh my gosh, we look terrible. Our attack is not great. We're still focusing on set pieces, whatever. Or that's probably the worst we're going to play. And we still got to win away from home at a bogey ground. And so we can put that behind us and focus towards Leeds. I got a sense at the end of the game that the players were somewhat relieved. I think that they kind of needed to get that huge, like, kind of fixture out of the way. Make no mistake about it. It was a setup. Like, that was the biggest setup I've ever seen, to put Arsenal and Manchester United against each other, especially at Old Trafford. First game of the season was definitely the type of game that was set up, maybe not intentionally by the supercomputer, although I have my tinfoil hat on. I'm like, but it definitely was set up for, if we drop points, let's start the media kind of tornado washing machine on Arsenal. And I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I'm on YouTube talking. So hopefully things are working. I'm just going to keep talking as if things are going right, but yeah, let me know. Um, but yeah, I'm just like, I knew what they wanted to happen, and because they didn't get it, they're still trying to push their agendas and their narratives, regardless. Like, when we beat Manchester City 5-1, I feel like they still wanted to make it an Arsenal conversation rather than a conversation around Manchester City. Somehow United taking 22 shots is a positive, but if the roles were reversed and we had 22 shots and not put a single one in the back of the net, the narrative would have been Arsenal misfiring, not some big, you know, oh my gosh, they're so good. They took 22 shots and none hit the back of the net. So you guys know how it goes. You guys know how it fucking goes. Um, Arsenal is always the topic of conversation no matter what's going on. And so we'll get to the Eucharist of it all. But, we won the game. We won the game. We took the 3 points. I think would I want to switch places and have the better performance and not get the 3 points? No, because we know what that feels like. Cast your mind back to, I think in 2021, we AirPod Albert was on the sideline. Arteta was not coaching. And around New Year's, we played Man City and played them off the park, only to lose by 2-1 after Gabriel was sent off. And wasn't nobody sitting around talking about Arsenal, look at how great they played. Nothing. It was just Manchester City did what Manchester City does. Arsenal fucked it up and he deserved to lose. And so no amount of positives and uh hopium copium made that feel good. Essentially playing a team off the park and not coming away with the 3 points is no moral victory. It ain't shit, really. So for them, Manchester United, they can take whatever they want from that game. And if I was them, I probably would take a lot of positives from that game because that's all I can take, because I can't take the points. But from an Arsenal perspective, it really means not really anything. I think our season really does start against Leeds in terms of understanding where we truly are. We're going to get enough points against the big six. That's who we are now. We are the type of club that, we're really kind of good against the bigger teams. We are very competitive. Where we stumble and where we've stumbled over the past 2 seasons is not losing to Villa in crunch time, not losing to West Ham in crunch time, not getting shut out at home against Everton, in March. That's, I feel like, where we need to improve, and making sure that our attack doesn't get stuck in the horseshoe, not struggling against mid-deep blocks. That really wasn't the problem yesterday. So that's where we're going to really see whether or not this team has matured and whether or not the tactics are going to stick and put us in a situation where we are creative, we are dangerous against teams that tend not to want to play us. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. I can really pretty much put this game behind me because I know what we were trying to do. It was not great. We sucked at it. But I'd much rather us try to get better at that than continue to do the bullshit we've been doing. So it was an execution problem. I also think that maybe some of our defenders didn't get as much credit as they should have because, it wasn't just United where they just didn't know how to shoot. I think we defended them really well, especially Raya, Gabrielle. I felt safe when Timber came on. I can't lie. So, yeah, I think having that really good defense helped us on the day. And if we could get a coherent attack going, we might actually be able to do something. If we could actually get Yokers the ball, we might be able to do something. So, yeah. And I watched a lot of Rivals like reviews of our game. And of course, they were crying about us scamming, but they all pretty much said the same thing. It's very unlikely that Arsenal will play this bad anymore. And, they were hoping and praying for us to drop points, but that was probably the worst we'll play all season. And I think we all kind of know that deep down, regardless of whatever negativity you have going on, we're probably never going to play that bad again. So, Daryl says we are trying to play a new system. That much is clear. And I think anybody who is still pretending like we were trying to do the same thing, to me, it wasn't that clear when we played against Tottenham that we were trying to do anything different. I actually felt like that felt the most like last season, which was really why it was so painful to watch us play that way. Because essentially we passed it sideways and backwards. We could not penetrate. Thomas Frank knows how to hurt us with the mid block. And then we had a sloppy mistake at the back and we lost 1-0. But in particular, the Bilbao game and yesterday, I think it was really clear what we were trying to do. But we need to keep working on it because this group of attackers really struggles with the runs, with the actual execution of the pass, and when they get the ball in dangerous positions, they tend not to be able to get past their man or make the right decision. So a lot needs to be fixed. The main issue yesterday was our final action, shots, passes, dribbles. I feel like that's a good sign because it shows it's more of a decision-making issue than not a larger thing. I watched very little of our rivals take on our United game. I knew what they'd say, so I tuned it out. And people just rage for raging's sake. I understand being really frustrated about the performance yesterday because it was bad. And then there's the emotional like part of playing United as well. And so I think that as somebody that has been blinded by rage because our performance was so bad, even though we got the result, I can understand where that comes from. I don't connect with it today because like we're not going to play that bad ever again. I can definitely put that behind me. And I personally avoided my own like 9/11. So I feel like I survived. But I can understand the feeling, but I do think that, when I hear certain statements like, you know, oh, well, Saka was worse than Martinelli. He made less sprints. What's wrong with Saka? Odegaard was the worst one out there. Zubimendi flopped, like, things like that. I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with those things, but it is what it is. Let's see. Gusto says it's only the first game and you won. Exactly. I'm trying to be optimistic. PSG also struggled for the first part of last season trying to play faster. However, we're still one or two players short. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I still think we're going to struggle in some ways. Everything has to go perfectly. I think with the type of attack that we have to hope that everything goes our way because we don't have the type of attack that just scores ad nauseum. They kind of have to be in the perfect mood and the flow of things. They don't really score goals even if they're not playing well. Does that make sense? Like literally, if our attack is not playing well, it's rare that they'll just nick a couple of goals. It will be like the defenders or whatever kind of nicking those goals for them or, whatever. So I think, with the type of attack that we have, and it's not like we have an overabundance of X factor and flair and, just goal scoring. We're going to have to hope that we're going to get into a flow like we were in 23-24 and that things kind of just go our way. No injuries, flow state, everything is clicking. But we're not really the type of team that cannot be clicking and still the attack still gets it done. They need to be clicking. And so click away. Click away, my friends, because you guys need to get clicking. I think what concerned me or is a concern for me is the lack of chemistry that we have in key parts of the pitch. I kind of expect us not to have that much chemistry with Gyökeres to begin with, but I don't necessarily see great chemistry between even Kai, Saka, and Martinelli. I think Kai and Saka have a decent chemistry, but the left-hand side is very much so disconnected from everyone else. And when I say there is no chemistry on the left-hand side, I mean that. There's no chemistry on that side whatsoever. No cohesion, no dialogue, no nothing. I think Calafiori papers over the cracks on that side, but ultimately, I just really see nothing between. If you rewatch the game, you'll see that we didn't really build through the right-hand side as much as we usually do, and we tried to do things on the left, mostly because Calafiori was over there, but it was incredibly clunky between Martinelli, Gyökeres, and Rice. That could be a fitness problem. I understand that, Gyökeres, he gets a lot of, benefit of the doubt from me because he did not have a preseason, but I think we've seen multiple seasons now that Rice and Martinelli doesn't really they don't connect. It's so rare that you'll see Rice get the ball and pass it into the channel for Martinelli or for them to do a little 1-2 on that side. Um, so I think that's where I think Arteta needs to maybe make a decision on what's going to be the best combination of players to move forward with. I know that obviously we're going to have to rotate, so it's not going to always be there, but the combination right now of Miles Lewis Skelly, Rice, and Martinelli, and or Calafiori, Martinelli, and Rice. Uh-uh. No, baby. It doesn't work, so there's just nothing there. Um, So that's probably something that needs to be looked at. The combination between Gyökeres and Saka will eventually come. And I did see a lot more of Odegaard between the lines receiving the ball from Zubimindi rather than, remember a couple of games ago, Odegaard was deeper, still kind of getting in Zubimindi's way. I think he's relieved himself from those responsibilities. And it's just about him getting his sharpness and executing those passes a lot better. So, yeah, there was some positive, but there was definitely some like, y'all really don't look good together, like at all, like in any way, shape, or form. Let's see. All of our technicians are on the right side, our right-sided players. Everything on the left is stiff and robotic. I agree, Collins, 110% there. That the left-hand side is so clunky. Like when Calafiori is the silkiest player on that side, you have to look at it like, what's going on here? Um, they just don't have the ability to connect and open up that side with any sort of passing. It really is like more of a they get it, come backwards and give it back to the center back or give it to Zuby so that we can get it back onto the right hand side. And so I'm not quite sure what we're expecting from that side, but it can't be fluid football because there's no way that they're going to be able to make that work. We can't play without a left back inverting. It's becoming an issue. Well, yeah, we it worked in 22-23 because we had an overload in midfield every game because we had sorry, not Zubimini, we had Zinchenko, um, Party, Xhaka, Odegaard, and Gabriel Jesus in midfield all the time. So we always had a monopolization of the midfield, and we had at least 3 or 4 technicians. Actually, everybody was a technician in that midfield at that time. Everybody that played there when we were in possession could do something with the ball. Nowadays, you don't have Gabriel Jesus dropping into midfield. You don't have a Zinchenko, you have a different profile of player, and the left center mid is nowhere to be found. So, um, we do have to invert now because that's the only way that we can get equal numbers in midfield because the left center mid position is a ghost. So, um, yeah, yeah. Um, but hey. Josh says we have an overload of shin kickers now. Only so one part in the game, only saw one part in the game, second half, where we were passing the ball around too much at the edge of the penalty box. Other than that, never seen us do it too much. Xhaka would fill spaces and progress the ball quickly. Yeah, I mean, if you watch any sort of like any sort of comps or anything from back then, Zinchenko and Party basically sat at the base and would pass the ball in between the lines to Odegaard and Xhaka, and then they would like essentially the defenders would have to make a decision. They would either have to collapse onto Xhaka and Odegaard, or they would have to back up and make sure that Saka and Martinelli didn't get the ball. And so what would usually happen is they'd collapse on Xhaka and Odegaard. They would make a little move, pass in between the lines, and Martinelli or Saka would be free. Not having players consistently in between the lines bringing the defense forward is making it easier for them to defend us. And so the left-hand side just doesn't do it at all. I definitely saw Zubimendi replicating that in between the lines to Odegaard, and that helped us. But not having it on the left-hand side hurts us quite a bit. Let's see. If we don't sign anybody, no way we win this league with this current team. Xhaka better than Havertz and Marino, his replacement. I don't think there's no real competition really between Xhaka and Havertz and Marino at left center mid. I would take Xhaka today if that meant I could stop watching what I watch at left center mid. I just feel like we play with two midfielders. We don't play with overloads in midfield. We often feel understaffed in midfield because unless Declan's playing in more of that like dropped in pivot role, it just feels insufficient. So yeah, Odegaard might be misprofiled. He should be an 8 and Ethan as our 10 as he believe he's more decisive. I don't know if Odegaard is misprofiled by Arsenal. He's misprofiled by the fans. He's been an 8 for a while now, and we've played with 2 8s and a 6 for about 2 seasons now. So we don't play with a 10. And the quicker people realize that, I think the quicker they'll realize that, yeah, like even Ethan, when he plays right center mid, he's playing right center mid. So unless Arteta changes that, we play with 2 8s and a 6. You know, it's not Odegaard being misprofiled by the club. He's been playing an 8 for 2 years now, but people haven't cottoned on to it. They're like, he's the 10, he's the 10, he's the 10. It's like, we don't fucking play with the 10, guys. I don't know what to tell you. James B from AFTV did an interesting analytical video on the positives from the match. It made me feel better about the team's potential to increase the pace and fluidity of style of play. There is definitely positives yesterday. Besides just getting the 3 points, it's definitely squinting, but you know, if you ask for a different style of play and something that lends itself more to Gyökeres' style of play, it was there. It just wasn't executed properly. Just do you think that United playing with essentially a team full of midfielders surprised us? Because on paper, I certainly expected us to outnumber them in midfield. It was the opposite. Maybe. I think in midfield, there was something there where they were easily bypassing us. So maybe we didn't expect them to have so many players dropped in, than they did. Maybe because usually I feel like United vacate the midfield, or not necessarily vacate, but they play with less midfielders and more stretchers. So you'll have like your Garnacho, you'll have your Rashford, and those players stretch. They don't necessarily drop in. And so usually like the 2 midfielders that they would have would kind of be left on an island by themselves. And that wasn't necessarily the case yesterday. But, I feel like the outnumber in midfield was less about Man United's structure and more about the fact that our third midfielder was basically anonymous. And so you will always feel the impact of a poor Rice game because he's such a big part of what we do. And he was genuinely anonymous in there, genuinely. If we don't add another attacking player, we're going to go trophyless. Unpopular opinion, but I think if Xhaka stayed with us another season, he would have struggled. Opponents would stop giving him space. That's what happened against Liverpool and West Ham in 22-23. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there's like a big fly in here now because the door's open. Potentially, but it's a hypothetical. I think based on what we've seen from all three players, Havertz, Marino, Rice, and Xhaka, that the only time that we look good with our left center mid was with Xhaka. And so hypothetically, maybe, but you know, at least having his skill set still might help us, even if the spaces are more limited. I just feel like those players add so little to the midfield conversation, and so, yeah, we would have to see it in real time. I don't know why Mikel likes Marino in midfield. He's so poor. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather lose the way we played yesterday than play our U-shaped football. I know we can't win trophies playing U-shaped. We have to try new things. I agree, we do have to try new things, and I think when we ask for the team to try new things, when we bring in new players, there is this element of, like, a lack of patience or, like, the inability to, you know, think maybe more n be a little bit more patient with things that you naturally would be patient with if we weren't under the gun. I think because there's so much anxiety, it's like if Gyökeres doesn't score right away, he's flopped. Oh my gosh, I need to sound the alarm bells. But I think in any normal situation, if we weren't under the gun or didn't feel pressure, we would think clearly and think he probably needs to adapt and his teammates need to adapt to him. We're also implementing a new style of play that, oh, by the way, was just introduced a couple of weeks ago. So, would we expect us to perfect it overnight? Probably not. But because we're under the gun, it's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you asked for a new style of play and you're getting it. And these are the repercussions of doing that. And we're probably in a good enough place where we can still get good results, even though we're trying to do new things, which is something that we couldn't do before. Um, but it's going to be rough. You know, this team for the last 2 seasons has been playing a very rigid possession-based style, and they're literally trying to manufacture transitions and play on transition to suit their new striker, and the teething is teething, you know? So, I also wonder if this fan base will accept that a more open style is going to mean that other teams are gonna get more chances, because it seems like we want our cake and we wanna eat it too. We want to play a more open style and play more dynamic and take more risks, but we also want the other team not to ever have a shot or for us never to lose the ball, and we shit our pants every time that a pass doesn't come off, a riskier pass doesn't come off, or, we concede something on transition. And I'm just like, are you guys ready for this? Or do you want to play the safe ball? Because, you're not going to get it both ways. It's why you guys, when you watch Liverpool, you're constantly harping on the other team getting these chances and not putting it away. They're so open. They're so open. Look at the gaps. Look at the gaps. That's just that. Those are the repercussions of playing a more open attacking style. So either you want it or you don't. I prefer 23-24 at the back end, best ever style of football. For me, I put the Xhaka excuses to bed until we went into the last season. What is a 10? Is it based on the current football trends? Is Palmer what we consider a 10? I would say so. I feel like Palmer, regardless of if he plays in the 10, actually plays in the 10. Or if he plays right wing, he's playing more as a creative midfielder. Um, I think that his responsibilities are not anywhere near the responsibilities that we see Odegaard have in Arsenal's team. The passes that Odegaard is doing are going to the Palmer character in, like, the Palmer character. So he's Odegaard's doing a lot of the pass before the pass, where Palmer does the pass. And so I think that's kind of the breakdown, is they want Odegaard to be the pass, the little literal assister, but he's doing a lot of the build up, opening up the space, creating the platform for the move to take off. And when he gives it to the other player, it breaks down. I don't really know what to tell you there, but there's a lot of emphasis on Odegaard being a lot of our creative focal point and also doing a lot of the other stuff like the passes before the pass, building up the, what an 8 would do. Um, I just feel like it would make us so much better if we played a system that had another creative player in midfield. Um, I think it's really strange how there's never any requirement on the left center mid to contribute goals, assists, anything. But Odegaard is meant to do absolutely everything. And I'm like, if maybe we had another creative player on the left hand side that did more of that 10 role, like an Eze, we would be in a much better position. But that's just me. We have to find that creative player, that other creative player in the 11 in another position, because just swapping out Odegaard for somebody else is not going to solve the problem. You need to have Odegaard plus somebody else, either at left wing or left center mid or somewhere, you know. Can't just have one fucking, creative player in the team at all. I watched yesterday's match with my nephew, his first watch, and now he's an Arsenal fan. Should I feel good or bad? Listen, would you want him to be anything else? I mean, I don't know, but I feel like being an Arsenal fan is painful at times, but it's also could be the greatest gift. So, yeah, I would say you let's see how things manifest. You never know what the next 10 years at Arsenal will be like, so we never would have thought we would have went through such a difficult time, but we could end up going through some good times and you'll feel good about it. So, yeah. Let's see. Um, let's see. According to Mikel Odi is the number 10, 8, 6, 11 insanity. He's everything, that's for sure. And I think sometimes he struggles to live up to all those expectations. I just feel like a lot of the questions that we have around creativity and X factor and stuff would kind of disappear a little bit more if one of the other players offered any sort of creativity, X factor, something. Like in, 22, 23, obviously Saka and Odie were a major part of that, but you had Gabriel Jesus doing a lot. And I think maybe over the years, because Jesus hasn't played as much, maybe it's dulled the reality of what he brought to this team, but he brought a lot of X factor, a lot of creativity to this team. And so you essentially lost another number. You lost an 8 in Xhaka, a true number 8. You lost a 10. You lost a lot, and we haven't really replaced that because this version of Martinelli, this Kai Havertz, they don't give you any of that shit. So, yeah. Let's see. What's our third and fifth fixtures? I don't know. Liverpool away, I want to say, and maybe Nottingham Forest at home or City at home. Let's look. So, okay, no, we play our third fixture is Liverpool and the fifth is City. So, and Nottingham Forest at home is about to be a tough game as well. So it couldn't get any more difficult, but let's say we get out of Anfield with a draw. We beat Nottingham Forest at home. We get something out of the Man City game. Like, we just have to get out of these fixtures without too many L's. And then we can go into some easier fixtures and bank up some of these points. Let's see. Let's see. Jess, wouldn't you say Palmer and Bergkamp share similarities? Obviously, Bergkamp is better. You wouldn't call Bergkamp a 10, though. I mean, what would you call Bergkamp? I mean, he wasn't necessarily a striker. He played off the striker, and the game was different back then. Bergkamp played in systems with a 4-4-2, and to me, that's really just a second striker role, a 10 off of the striker. So maybe Palmer is a little bit of that, but I do think that fundamentally, he's a number 10. or a creative midfielder. He is not going to take up the responsibilities of receiving the ball and being the pass before the pass. He's most likely going to be the person giving that goal scorer the ball or getting on the end, the last person on the move. And so whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it a second striker, you want to call it a 10. Bergkamp to me was a number 10 that scored goals. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but what do you want to call it? A 10.5 or a 9.5, or I don't know. But he was just a fucking superstar. Like, I don't know what to call it. He just had the juice. I don't know. Because he wasn't a striker, that's for sure, but he was more than that. So yeah. That's what fans call a 10 now, but don't know if all coaches agree with the fans on what a 10 is. I do think that that's a 10. Like the difference between Cesc and Ozil. I think there's a clear difference between the two of them. I don't necessarily view Fabregas as a 10. I think that he's like I don't know what to I don't know if I want to even give him a number. He's just the main engine kind of guy that did everything. He did the final pass, but he did the pass before the pass. He started moves, he ended moves, he did so much. But Ozil at his core was just a 10. He was just a 10 and a fabulous one at that. So midfielders play different roles, and I think more than just the actual number, it's about how those pieces come together in midfield to create a balanced and dangerous midfield. And I think with Arsenal, what we have is maybe a lack of balance, and some of the qualities in midfield that have been lacking for a while. And so we're looking to players to do a lot more than they probably should be required to do. And there's some players that aren't doing enough, so yeah. But the midfield beyond just numbers, because to me, like, the numbers are kind of whatever. I don't think Odegaard and Cole Palmer is a great comparison, because I think they're two completely different players, and I actually think they would work in a team together. But when you have somebody like Cole Palmer who does those number 10 things, I do think it's really easy to kind of like try to compare them. And it's like, well, he's number 10 and he's number 10. And if Cole Palmer's doing this, then Odegaard needs to do this. Of course, Odegaard needs to do more, but I actually think the more Cole Palmer person in our team is actually Saka, who's going to replicate those types of things. When Odegaard gets the ball, he gives it to Saka, because Saka is the one who's most likely going to get the assist. Saka just happens to play on the wing. He's not necessarily number 10, but he is a creative focal point that works together with Odegaard. And if we could just get maybe one other one somewhere else on the pitch, maybe we'd be better. So yeah. Fabregas is an 8, Bergkamp is a 10. Depending on the game, they'll play higher up, lower down. Ozil, quintessential number 10. I agree with that. Let's see. Meanwhile, Arsenal's women's team reign trophies. I mean, our women's team is just special, isn't it? 10s have the main role of being a team's main creator. That doesn't mean every 10 plays the same or even in the same position. Palmer, Odie, Messi, Yamal, Bergkamp, Wirtz, KDB, Ozil are 10s, but different. I think that the way that I look at our team is more from the standpoint of like role rather than number. And the way that the roles are set up and the way that we play, our main creators in our team are our wingers, in particular Saka. And so he's more of the person that we're going to look to get on the ends of moves and be the person to put in that final pass, final cross, or whatever. Would like that modified. I think we need another creative player in the team, because Saka can't do it all. But there's a heavy emphasis on Saka and Odegaard to carry this team's attack. And there's very little requirement for anybody else to do anything. And that drives me fucking crazy. I've never seen such a lopsided attack, very much so based on the backs of 2 players to do probably 4 players' jobs. Wild. Nobody is like Bergkamp. That role is obsolete in football now. Folks focus on the first 6 matches, but look at the matches 7 and 8. Arsenal got 1 out of 12 points last 2 seasons. Would the left side be better if we bring back Saka on the left? One of our better players, if we don't bring anyone in, needs to be moved to the other side. I think. I feel like that's the only way that we can make the left-hand side more tenable. It feels so strange on that side. It's like just a dead zone. I wouldn't mind seeing Odegaard shifted over to the left. I wouldn't mind seeing Saka play a role on the left and maybe play Madueke on the right. I just don't want to see what I've been saying. I would, like I said the other day, that I'd be open to Rice playing on the right and Odegaard playing on the left. I was against it before, but I feel like now that time has gone on, that's the only way I can see bringing out the best, maybe the best version of both of them, but also opening up opportunities for both sides to click. And for us to release the ball maybe quicker on both sides. If Odegaard's on the left-hand side, he doesn't have to try to get it onto his left. If Rice is on the right-hand side, he doesn't have to try to get it onto his right. Maybe that helps us out. Maybe Saka on the left helps us out. But we're so rigid that nobody moves sides or anything. And it's just I know Arteta's not going to do that. He's going to keep it the same. I think Arteta's playing 4D chess, playing bad on purpose to not show his hand to Liverpool in 2 weeks. Who's the best left wing in the Prem? I feel our league is very right wing dominant. Best left wing. It's a really good question. I don't know. They are stinky, aren't they? The right wings are doing the business. The left wings are not that good, are they? Do you guys know of anybody that's really good on the left wing in the Prem? Are we saying Doku's the best left wing in the league? What are we saying? Gakpo? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Saka switching sides during the game would be interesting. Anyone switching sides would make us happier, I feel. Semenyo is a great call, strong and 2 years younger than Eze. Luis Diaz before he left. It's interesting. Nobody. Gordon Semenyo. It's dark. Very dark. Probably Doku. It's dark, you guys. I think it was frustrating that more combinations weren't tried during preseason to see if other formations could work. That's a really interesting point, Burmy. I think, maybe we didn't see enough of what, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, we could have tried more. We definitely could have tried more, but we just kind of stick with the same old thing. If you notice, every ball Odegaard did put through to Gyökeres, they drift away from the goal and killed the attack. It wasn't every ball. I watched every single transition, that comp that somebody made, and I do think that he had one in particular that he put into, maybe it was Saka, that took him wider than it should have. But I'm going to still be honest with you guys. I still think that even though the ball wasn't the best, I expect Bukayo Saka to get past Mason Mount. The one that he hit to Gyökeres, where Gyökeres tripped himself, that was in the perfect position for him. And sometimes the ball does need to go a little bit away from goal to not get cut out by the center back. I feel like we watch it from our perspective and we're like, it's just so easy. Just hit a straight ball. If you hit a straight ball, the center back's going to get it first. So it does go a little bit wide, but it's still in the perfect position for Gyökeres, who's known for playing in the half space, and he tripped himself. So this is kind of my frustration, is that I think people are trying really hard to blame Odegaard for every single attack breaking down. but there's no expectation for Saka to beat his man. There's no expectation for, Gyökeres not to trip himself. There's no expectation for, Martinelli when he gets the ball to pick his head up. It's just, well, he should have put them straight onto goal. How about these players need to be able to beat their fucking man? It's not like when Mbeumo was getting the ball from Bruno Fernandes and Mount, he still had to beat Calafiori or Gabriel. They didn't just hit it straight onto goal. So no, I think Odegaard's a very easy target, but as time goes on, our forwards have less and less responsibility to actually get past their man, take shots, score goals. It's just, well, somebody needs to put them straight onto goal. Sometimes that's not possible. If you're 1v1 with Mason Mount, I expect you to get past him. Sorry. Let's see. Huge job for any defender keeping Glock 14 quiet. Get ready for Liverpool. Let's see. You guys are saying I'm frozen? Why are you laying on my stuff? You're so cute. I'm just waiting for it to like pop back up. All right, I think we're back now. All right. Let's see. Glock 14 do all the work when he's fit. He will surprise his teammates. He's that tough. So it's a combination. I think everybody could do better, not just one player. And I still think that the actual forwards need to actually do their job. Yeah, no. Let's see. Said Odegaard had about 7 chances to make the right pass decision in transition. He got 2 or 3 times the pass decisions. He got it right. The pass decisions plus the run needs to be better. The one where he scooped in the second half was nonsense. There's one that he scooped in the second half was nonsense, but then there was one that he gave straight to Saka in the box, and Saka blammed it over the bar. There was also the chance that Odegaard created where he beat 2 Manchester United players, put it in for Saka. Saka put it across, and I think Bruno kicked it out before Nani got to it. It's really a combination of everyone. Elvis says Premier League players name Odegaard as one of the best players in the league for a reason. Sadly, he gets criticized by our fan base the most. Once the fan base doesn't like you, it's done. Like, I do not expect people to come back around to Odegaard. It's just once you're gone, you're gone. Like, it took one bad season and just the constant pile on. And now when people were saying he was the worst player out there yesterday, I just knew it. I'm like, it's over. Let's see. I'm not going to lie. This little thing, I know I'm changing the subject, but this Lookman situation, now that Inter are out of the race and they're not going to do the deal, I know that he rejected us earlier, but I would not mind us going in for him at all. We really need to bring in somebody else on the left with some X factor and some vibes. I'm not going to be able to watch the nonsense any longer. So, yeah. His first goal demonstrates that for Arsenal. To be honest, I think Havertz needs to start till Gyökeres gets acclimated to our system. How does he get acclimated to the system? By sitting on the bench, though? I think that's the problem is Arsenal fans don't want to really go through the growing pains of having a new player needing to adapt. They don't really want to go through the growing pains of a young player having hiccups or peaks and troughs in their development. They don't really want to change the system because there's going to be, teething issues. They somehow want all these things to change and everything to click without actually having to go through anything. And so there's no way that Gyökeres is going to get up to speed and learn his teammates on the training pitch. He's going to have to do it in real games. So unfortunately, you need to keep starting Gyökeres and just go through the bumpy time. We need to be able to win games while learning and getting better. I just don't understand how we get past these points with kind of retroactively going back to Kai Havertz because it's our warm and fuzzy blanket. There's like Kai Havertz is not taking us anywhere. I know that we're more used to him and whatever, but there's a clear ceiling with Havertz as our starting forward, so yeah. He shouldn't have come off at 60 minutes. We're much better in transition when Gyökeres is playing, acclimated from the bench. Y'all gonna cry when we get Rodrigo. Not me, though. I said this from July. Liverpool won the league with Soboslai and still bought Wirtz to replace him, but still sentimental to Odegaard, hoping he'll become good again. I mean, it's not Odegaard's fault that Arsenal didn't want to buy Eze. So, I mean, they literally said it was about Ethan. So, I don't know what to tell you there. I really don't. Let's see. When is the window closing, guys? I don't think we'll sign any players. September 1st, I think. Gyökeres will score against Leeds. I'm sure of it. Glock 14. Give me time. I return with goals for I trust him. Neither Wirtz or Soboslai better than Odegaard. Odegaard at his best level is clear. 15 non-penalty goals at his best. I believe it's September 1st. So, yeah, we just have to see how things go. But personally, I do think that we have to keep playing Gyökeres. I know that it's hard, and I know that Arsenal fans get the itchy kind of feeling when rivals start talking bad about our players because they don't like to hear negativity around their players. But I mean, if preseason didn't tell you anything, then I don't know where you guys have been. When you sign a good player, rivals are dying for them to flop. They're going to do all types of think pieces and videos and all type of stuff and comps and shit. We're going to have to go through the rough to get to the smooth with this one. And you should think about how good it's going to feel when he actually does start to click. I think it's like people are too shook. Like they do not want this guy to click for us. So they're going to hopefully doom it into existence. So yeah, it is what it is. We're gonna have to keep playing Gyökeres. I'm not the biggest Odegaard fan, but I can't entertain Odegaard out talks when our left wing looks absolute shit. Martinelli or Madueke. Sancho deadline day loan signing. I can see it. I doubt that. We're not getting that guy. I'm very curious if Vieira will get some minutes against Leeds. Yeah, I could see him getting minutes against Leeds. The Manchester United game was probably not the game to bring him in for. But Leeds is the perfect game to bring him in for. So let's see how we get going in the Leeds game. But I would be the Leeds game is where I'm going to be disappointed if we're not up by like 2 goals in the first 20 minutes. I feel like we should be. So yeah, what is SofaScore telling me right now? Real Madrid play tomorrow as well. I'm kind of excited to see what they look like. No one mentioned the stagnancy and clumsiness of Madueke. Arteta should do what Wenger did. Wenger played Sanya as right back and played a buoy as box-to-box mid. Arteta should use MLS as a buoy. I don't know. I don't know. Arteta needs to either double down on the Madueke project or not. I feel they bought him and profiled him and platformed him, like, put him on a pedestal of this tier 1 player. And Arteta had spoke to Madueke and said that he can make him into a top left wing. I'm not sure how that's going to happen if you keep playing Martinelli. So I think I'd be actually a little bit more down with the signing as much as I can be if I felt like Arteta was going to like really double down on it. Because I don't see how he's going to again build that chemistry, build that like vibe with our players, especially Calafiori, who I feel like he needs to be playing with from the bench. He had like a 15-minute cameo or something like that, and it wasn't the best. But we were in the weeds, and I don't know if you can take anything from that, to be honest. Do you think Dalman would have come in for the Man U game? No. We got Madueke. We don't exactly have standards. Faster, the Harry Maguire fearless in the box gave that man time. Arteta signing players and giving them high wages and then not playing them have made them pretty hard to sell, and they're also happy living in London. We are definitely finishing above City and Chelsea. If we look at the EPL's first game performance, Chelsea to draw 5 games in the first 10 games. Madueke on the left is identical to having Reece Nelson there. Yeah, if we don't beat Daniel Fark, definitely cause for concern. Yeah, we should be like 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes of the game. I'm not even joking. Like at home at the Emirates, we should be open, we should be flying, we should be free. We should be shooting on sight. It's Leeds. If we're not doing that, then we need to question what the fuck is going on. Let's see. Everton and Leeds play today. I'm actually very interested to see what Everton look like with all their new signings. So yeah. Let's see. Meslier versus Gyökeres. I mean, the whole thing for the Leeds game has got to be give Gyökeres the ball, right? Just keep giving the ball. You need to get him off the mark as soon as possible. That's more important than anything else. So yeah. What did you guys think of, Timber's cameo and also Kai Havertz's cameo? Because I've seen quite a bit of talk about Timber versus White, so I wanted to touch on that. And then also Kai, because I was asked by my friend Gabby what I thought about it, and I didn't have a great deal to say because I just feel like coming off of the bench and being bright is kind of like what I expect, running around, pressing. He had one good, kind of move that he was a part of, but ultimately I didn't really see much. Now with Timber, even when he's rusty, I feel like he's such a fantastic player. Before the game started, there were people that were saying that they felt like, White was this so much better attacking and Timber was just the defensive guy. No, it's just not. We're talking about a potential. I think Timber showed world-class levels last season. World-class right back versus Ben. Timber, you're that guy. Timber is one of our best players. When I watch him play, I'm like, he's so good, even rusty. Remember, he didn't play for the whole back end of the season and barely trained in preseason. He just came back and you can just see the quality. I wish we used his ball carrying and his press resistance much better, and gave him more license to kind of just push up the pitch. I felt safe. That's all I'm going to say. I felt safe. I did. I think White will be better for the lower level games for sure. Timber is him, way better player. Smash the like button, lads. Get in. Timber is a world-class player. He was injured and he still handed Krava. I would wish he was better at overlapping. Timber, Dutch international, Ten Hag, no. He wanted him at Man United. We have to give Timber license to kill. I think we could utilize his skill set so much more. I think we have players that have skill sets that we just do not utilize at all. Timber has a special skill set, press resistance, carrying the ball. He's actually a good dribbler as well. Not necessarily he's gonna chop you up, but he's definitely somebody that has the Saka about him, that he's kind of press resistant and can kind of maneuver by you. with his positioning. We don't use that anywhere near enough. We do not use that anywhere near enough. We don't use it enough at all. Even Ben's passing, I don't think we use it enough. His long range passing, what he does is very tame compared to, I feel like, what his actual like tool set is. Yeah, we should be using that more. Saw clips today of the way we tried to play in transition at times, but we were so poor at it. We need to get better at it. Timber was one of the best signings we have made, such an underrated player. Ben White, I can't find it in my stomach to say anything bad about him, but he's never getting his spot back at right back. I'm surprised that there was so much actual debate about it. I'm surprised at the amount of people that feel like there's any sort of competition between the two players, and that's coming from somebody that actually really loves Ben. The two things can be true at the same time, that you really like a player and you'll defend them to, the death, like, get behind me, I will defend you, Ben. But I really don't think there's that much of a competition between him and Timber when it comes down to it. Yeah. Timber suffered a serious injury. He is not show it. He's fearless going forward. Ben White and Saka fed families for a while, for sure. And I think they still can feed families. Ben is also coming off of a long period out. So I still feel like there's some sharpness to go for him as well. But he'll never be able. I don't want to speak too like harsh on him, because it's not like a harshness thing. It's more of just like a Timber is just a different caliber of player, and I just don't think Ben can get to that level. But he still is at a level that I think is really good for us as well. Darnell says, is it too early to say Sesko would have been a better fit for Arsenal? Probably. One game in, Sesko didn't do shit for United. Chris didn't really do shit for Arsenal. I kind of want to talk on this a little bit too, just really quickly. This whole, can we start making come to definitive conclusions after match week 1? I remember when we were flying in 22-23, and all I heard ad nauseum was, you don't look at the table until match week 10. The season starts in April. It's early. It's a long season. You're showing your naivety by coming to any conclusion in the first couple of games. You look good now, but what about later? And I think that should stand across everything, because I do agree with that. I think early on in the season, nothing is definitive. Nothing is set in stone. It's a long season. It is August. The season ends in May. So any sort of definitive conclusion or whatever, I feel like is incredibly premature. And I think people are very trigger happy because on social media, it pays to say, I told you so. And so it was just a couple of days ago when we played against Bilbao where everybody was talking about how Gyökeres was going to do so well for us. He has a lukewarm debut against Man United where nobody gave him the ball, and now is it too early to say this and that? Yeah, of course it's too early. It's way too early. Raya saved our asses yesterday, and the last time that we played against United, he also saved our ass. 2-time Golden Glove winner, by the way, who was largely written off because he had a shaky moment against Man City when he first started playing for us. It is incredibly too early to make any sort of definitive conclusions, good or bad, about Arsenal, their new players, or where we'll finish or how we're going to play. We need to give Gyökeres more time. Like, I do not understand this jumping thing. Saying, did Raya really save us? The United shots were very rubbish. I mean, he did make 2 really good saves, and he was also whatever that guy's name is, Bandashir or whatever his name is, he had a very equal situation where they were pushing him into the goal and he punched the ball out. Um, yeah, Raya was pretty much our best player, which is why he won player of the match, by the way. So, yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah, because the shots that were actually good, he managed to get hands on it. So, yeah. This is football fandom. We're all emotional and reactionary. The Saka and Ben connection is undeniable. Hope Timber develops that with Saka. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't really think that Timber had a good opportunity to build it with Saka because everything was just so disrupted on that side. Timber never had a season that Ben did. Ben had like 2 seasons under his belt where he just played with Saka and Odegaard. That's it, you know? Timber didn't have that. He had months with Odegaard out. He had months with Saka out. So I think we have to give it time. But I think ultimately, like, yes, the connection and chemistry matters, but if one player is just significantly better than the other, it kind of washes that away anyway. I just do not want to have a situation where anytime you pass it into the channel, it's a pretty good chance that that player is going to get it. It's been a long time since I've seen our right-hand side get work. And I didn't like that, So I need my comfy blanket, and that comfy blanket is Timber. Um, let's see. The Mbomo headed save was huge. It really was. Like, even he got fingertips on the Cunha, where I think he got past a couple of our players on that side, and Raya got hands on that as well. You only need to make 1 or 2 saves to have saved us from the game. It only would have taken 1 goal to probably shift the tide on us. So, yeah, the coaches should utilize what players do to our advantage. When Gyökeres is being a nuisance, we should have attackers close by running off to him to benefit if he wins his duel. But no one is ever really there. Arteta forgot that Reece Nelson saved us against Bournemouth 2 years ago. Give him a chance, please. The ship has sailed. Our fullback options do give us a lot of tactical flexibility, assuming they're all fit, of course. Calafiori is something else. Like, he really is. I think he's shown in little snippets how useful he can be to a team that really lacks X factor in attack. And it really shouldn't be this way. We really shouldn't be looking at a left back as one of our better attacking options. Woke, but what Calafiori may lack in defense, like this is what I'm saying about, like, if you have a player that's dodgy defensively, what they bring going in the other direction needs to be worth the risk of getting caught out. And I kind of think that Calafiori, what he gives us going forward is worth the risk. I'm not quite sure I feel exactly the same about Ben, because Calafiori could score a goal. Like, he genuinely could score a goal. He's kind of like an insane player. And what we saw with Zinchenko was the risk had started to outweigh the reward in the second season. In the first season, the reward outweighed the risk significantly. So, yeah, he was bad defensively, but what we were getting from him on the ball was so good that it was like, I don't really give a shit. That second season, we were like, okay, that risk is starting to really, like, it's starting to get worse. So I think with Kala, it's worth it, to be honest. But you're gonna have to take into consideration that, and we spoke about this, the right wings in this league are very good. So essentially, where our strength is from a fullback perspective and where we leave the gap open is probably going to be occupied by an opposition player that's probably their best player. And they're going to utilize that to their advantage, which is what Man United did. They just gave the ball to Mbumo, gave the ball to Mbumo, gave the ball to Mbumo, gave the ball to Mbumo. What do you think Liverpool are going to do? They're just going to give the ball to Salah, give the ball to Salah. So this is why when, Calafiori does these maverick runs and, we create these opportunities through Calafiori. We need to make it count, because the backfire of that is that we're always going to be open on that side. And I don't necessarily feel like we got the payoff from Calafiori's brilliance yesterday, because everybody in attack was drunk. So yeah, Calafiori would play up front in my midfield if we let him. Let's see. I don't think we should be relying on 18-year-olds to win us the title. What MLS did last season was freakish. I don't expect that 2 years in a row. That's why Calafiori is so important, and his fitness is so important, because he was brought in to play that position. Arteta literally prioritized this player over a forward. I'm expecting Calafiori to change our lives. Let's be real. Let's see. I wish you guys can see it. It's so cute. But Beckham is like in my suitcase laying down. He's so cute. I love him. Would Timber have been a better option at left back in a game like that? If you wanted to play it safe, I think a lot of the good that it wasn't a lot, because obviously we fucked up a lot, but the good that we're getting from Calafiori was so necessary. So I don't know, because you guys know I'm not a huge fan of Timber on the left. I really do not like wrong-footed fullbacks. I feel like it limits you a lot and going forward. So where we would have been locked down, and maybe Mboma wouldn't have gotten so much joy, what will we have been giving going forward at all on that side? And we needed Calafiori because the left center mid was non-existent. So I don't know, because I think some of the time we have to do things that hurt the opposition, and kind of ride our luck. And that's exactly what Calafiori is all about. I think Timber is the safe option on the left, and it's definitely an option, but it's something that we should only use when we absolutely have to. And I don't know if Man United is the type of team that we need to do that with. Although, I mean, they did take advantage of it, but yeah. With Timber, it would have been 0-0. Soon, Calafiori be undroppable. All the girls love that. Some of the guys too, let's be real. We didn't play well, but the intention was there, and our speed of play and passes, the execution was off is all. Nah, Timber in the left is dark. Oh my gosh. It's not my favorite version of Timber. Not because Timber is bad, because when he played there in the Community Shield, I was like, we're cooking low key. But there's just an element of too many people on the left-hand side that cannot kick with their left. And it's like you already have Rice there. You got Martinelli, headless chicken. You do not need to add Timber over there as well. So yeah. Timber on the left is like break the glass in case of an emergency. That's definitely what it is. And it's a great option to break in case of an emergency, but we weren't in an emergency yesterday. If Calafiori is fit, he plays. I think it's just that simple. But then if MLS, like when he gets into form, I think we can utilize him as well in a different way. Caleb says, just this performance worried me. I'll be real, 22-23, we played United early and played them off the park. Now we look like Space Jam ballers, lost it all, but we also lost. I want to make sure that that's like it. I do not forget a single United game, because it literally that game traumatized me, and I'll never forget it. Playing them on the third game of the season away from home and losing after playing them off the park damaged me so badly. To Marcus Rashford, straight ball down the middle, him hitting us where it hurts again. Sambi Lokonga out there, I think because Thomas got injured or something like that. Them taking a perfectly good goal away from us. Zinchenko giving Anthony his debut goal on our head top. That traumatized me. I'm so sorry, but yes, we played them off the park and we were much better than them, but we lost. We lost. Like, that's probably the best we've played against them. really, under Mikel was maybe the first or the second game in 22-23. But I don't know if the payoff was really there. So I hear you, but it's not like we won, you know? So we lost 3-1 and it was dark. It was very, very dark in my heart and in my soul. Um, let's see. Don't tell me Madueke could ever replace Martinelli. Martinelli wasn't good today, but was way better than Madueke. Havertz was way better than Gyökeres, but it was only one game. So I actually, on rewatch, think Madueke was probably just as good as Martinelli, if I'm honest. Martinelli didn't do anything in that game, and Madueke did very little as well. So I'm not sure that yesterday was a win for Martinelli in any way, shape, or form. I know that Madueke got cooked by Ahmad, but it's not like Martinelli was helping Calafiori. Calafiori literally was on his own against Mbumo the entire game, so much so that he got a yellow. And this guy is supposed to be like this great and wonderful defender. So, yeah, no, I don't think that's the win that you think it is. And honestly, like Martinelli being better than Madueke, even if that was true, is not a win in any way, shape, or form because Martinelli's just not. He's not the answer. He sticks out like a sore thumb in our starting 11. And Havertz being way better than Gyökeres, also very overblown. He ran around a little bit. He wasn't that great. I can't believe we are using Madueke on the left. I feel like the fan base got played yet again this window. What's wrong, buddy? You okay? Oh, he's hot. I like to have seen Martinelli and Madueke's average positions in that game. Speaking of that, let me see if I can show you guys something. Let's see. Can you guys see that? Maybe? Let me try to make it bigger. Not me. That? All right. What is this? Can y'all see this? Tell me you guys can see it. These were our average positions passing network against Man United through the first sub. What do you see here? Does this make sense to you guys? What is the left-hand side? What is it? Do you not see Calafiori's average position was in front of Declan Rice, but look at Martinelli's. And look how little he touched the ball. The circle size is the number of touches. The color and the darkness of the line between players is the chain through the first sub, or it's through the first sub. So how many times like they kind of pass the ball to each other. The line size is the number of passes. And so what the fuck am I looking at? Now, like I told you guys, one thing that I saw a lot of was Zubimendi to Martin Odegaard, which makes a lot of sense because you can see this really dark and thick line between Martin Zubimendi and Martin Odegaard. That's what we want. But this train wreck on this left-hand side, my goodness. That on the right-hand side, that looks right to me. The spacing, everybody talks about how Odegaard just stands on top of Saka. That's not standing on top of Saka. He was more central. He was on an angle bias in front of Martin Zubimendi, getting that ball in between the lines. Ben was high, supporting Saka. But the left, whoo, Herne. Look at the dot for Martinelli and look at the dot for Victor Gyökeres. Look at the dot for Saka as well. He didn't really touch the ball. And I do not remember Declan Rice touching the ball as much as Calafiori. It did feel like Calafiori was touching the ball a lot more. That left needs help. It really does. I love it. Let's see. Why can't Saka beat his man? Saka looked like he was running in quicksand yesterday. Just no from West Ham, no from Moyes. I know what Man United gets said Moyes, hee hee. Okay. Let's see. Fun fact, Havertz has costed us this much to date. Martinelli, I beg I can send you some Cafu clips because your future is right back. Look how small the circle is. Guy barely touched the ball. It's crazy. So what I'm seeing is we got to play Calafiori at left wing over Martinelli. I mean, you'd probably have more success. No dancing like Jesse Lingard. What a plank said, Sir Alex. I want your bone. That's his words. Okay, we have half of a left-hand side. Bro, when your winger is deeper than both of your DMs, dark. But hey, Nelly is shit with touching the ball 3 times barely. Still so lopsided. Nelly played more wing back than Dorgu. Look at how little Gyökeres is involved. Yeah, there's so many things to look at here, but I think you can still see that like pass map doesn't look right at all. So yeah, I don't know, guys. I really don't know. I really don't know. And it doesn't prove anything for Martinelli. I know you're like kind of like a defender of Martinelli, Marco. So it's not really a Martinelli slander thing, really, but you have to admit that regardless of how you feel about Martinelli individually as a player, that whatever we're doing with him is not working. The structure, the tactics, where he's receiving the ball, nothing about the left-hand side made sense. So yeah. Maybe Arteta is asking Martinelli to defend more than Saka to help Kala. I just don't feel like that's what I saw, but maybe I have to rewatch again because what I saw was a lot of Calafiori 1v1 against Mbumo. That's what I saw. So I don't necessarily know exactly what Martinelli was defending, to be fair, you know? Let's see. Do you think Arteta is ever going to go back to a system that prioritizes striker strengths? I mean, technically, Jordan, I think you have to give him a little bit of credit. That the last 2 games, Bilbao and Man United, we tried to play on the counter and tried to play more to Gyökeres' strengths. It just didn't come off, you know? So, I think to a certain extent, we're trying to do that. It's just not it hasn't come off perfect yet. Bring me a serious left wing, please. What the fuck is this? It's just something about the left-hand side is very weird. But just last but not least, just to kind of wrap things up, because I know you guys will probably want to watch Everton and Leeds. But Trossard, John Cross said Trossard is most likely to go. I don't know if that means he is going, but Aston Villa, Brentford are interested in him in some teams overseas or in different leagues. Kiwior is looking at his options. We saw he didn't make the squad, so I think we're negotiating with Porto. Porto want him, and they have to up their bid, obviously, because I think they only offered like 27 million or something like that with the obligation. And then Stuttgart do not want to pay more than 17 million plus add-ons for Fabio Vieira, and Arsenal add-ons included. I mean, so 17 million is the most that you'll get. It's dark. It's dark. That's all I can really say about that. We're just waiting to see if any of these players move on. With Lookman now back on the market, I just feel like we need to move. I know that he's not perfection, but he's definitely better than what we have. And so we need to move Trossard on and get going, you know? So yeah. But we'll see how that goes. Let's all take a little gander at the Leeds and Everton game since we're going to be playing Leeds this weekend. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel on the way out. We will definitely chit-chat again tomorrow. Valeria is asking about Kala against Salah. We'll talk about that tomorrow for sure. Yeah, talk to you guys tomorrow. Love y'all. Bye.